Hi, I'm Alan Tatro with Global Sugar Art, and today I'd like to show you how to use the Bakery Crafts SPS tiered system. This system is designed to support tiered cakes from the bottom tier right onto your plate or the board that it's going to sit on the table right through the top tier. This is probably a product that we get more questions about over the phone, and people don't quite understand how the system works. So I'm going to try and clarify all of that for you today. The system basically includes pillars and plates. Now, please don't make the mistake of trying to interchange the products from the Bakery Crafts company with products from Wilton or any other decorating companies. They simply do not work together. So if you're going to buy the plates using the Bakery Crafts system, make sure you buy the pillars that go along with this. The beauty of the Bakery Crafts system is that they're inexpensive. These are designed to be disposable. You can do a wedding or a tiered cake for an anniversary or a party, and you can just sell the pieces. It's not that expensive. The customer buys them, and when they're done, they just throw them away. You don't need to worry about getting a deposit and bringing back and having them broken and having to wash them and all the issues that are involved in reusing a product in a cake. So I think this is actually one of the best ways to go. The pillars come in several different configurations. These are 4-inch standard pillars. Most wedding cakes in the US tend to be 4 inches high, so we start with those. And then we have some larger pillars that can be cut to fit. And the larger pillars come with a little capital that goes on them. And then the last pillars are a variety that can be modified very, very quickly. And let's see, we'll get a couple of each out of here, and those also come with the ends. Okay. I have this dummy wedding cake here, and I'm purposely using this dummy so that I can better explain the whole process of tiering a cake and supporting it. Now, when you're making a wedding cake, you would put the first tier down onto a board, and you would ice this and cover it with fondant or buttercream. Finish it however you want. Now, for the Bakery Crafts program, the plate can either sit flush on the cake and then have another cake on top of it, or you can use the longer pillars and have a space in between them. So I'm going to show you two different ways. The first way I'm going to show you is if you wanted the plate to be flush to the cake. Now you can see, even though this is styrofoam, I've cut out sort of a circle on an angle. I've cut a little divot out of each place where I'm going to put the pillar. And that's because the bottom of the plate is going to have these round pieces that hold your pillar. Now that's not how the plate comes. The plate comes like this with the rings already added on. And those are just a finish piece so that if the plate is higher off the cake, it will have a nice finished look. You can snap those off by putting a spatula in there and just popping the 4 of them off. So I'm going to mark my cake. Now the other item that people often do with these, on the top of these plates you'll see a little point, a little divot coming up. Take your cardboard that you're going to put your next tier on. Set that on the plate. Now I made these the same size purposely, and just push. Now that marked my cardboard. What that's going to allow me to do is when I have my next cake, I have some other dowels in here, I'll take those out. When I have my next cake finished, I can just slide it on here and it's going to fall right into that little groove and it's going to hold right there. So let's back up a minute. We're going to use this as a flush board. I'm going to use the 4-inch pillars and I'm going to insert them into the cake. And then I'm going to push that right down. And that's going to go right down flush. Now those pillars are protruding all the way through and they're resting on the bottom board. And that's going to allow me to build another cake on top of here, and it's going to support that very, very well for me. So that's the first option. If I want to add another cake, just like I just demoed, I would just take that cake, slide it into place until you feel that little pin sort of fall under the cardboard, and now your second cake is ready to go. I can repeat the process if I don't want the pillars to show. Oops, we're going to go this way. I can add 4 more pillars, and I can put this on the top, and I can do the same thing. I can push that all the way down, and now I have a cake ready for the top tier. So the transference of weight goes from this tier to the plate. From the plate into the pillars into the plate, into the pillars, right down to the bottom. And that ensures that the cake will stay perfectly straight and you'll never have any tilting on the cake. And it also is great for delivery because the whole system is in the cake and it's going to make it very, very sturdy. So let me quickly show you some of the alternatives with these pillars. They're easier to come out of cake than they are styrofoam. Okay. All right, some of the alternatives I can do is I'm going to put these rings back on that came on the plate originally. And this time I'm going to use the longer pillars. Now these marks are cutting marks, and you would use like a hacksaw is the easiest thing to use, or a very sharp serrated knife, but I really do find a little hacksaw works the best to cut these. I'm going to insert that into the cake and I'm going to decide how far down do I want that to go. I only want this part to show at the top, or maybe less. Maybe I only want 3 inches or 2 inches of this pillar to show. Then I would cut the appropriate amount off of the bottom. So those 4 would go in, and then your plate would go on. And these all snap in, or they fit in very snugly. Oops, that's got to stay up there. Okay, I did forget one part, so let's back up real quickly here. I have to have the finished piece on here for you. Okay. This time, you would not cut around the hole. You would just make a straight hole right into the cake. And you would add these little finished pieces that come with the pillars. And then you would add the top plate. Okay, now you have a finished separation. And from here, I can add the top tier, or the second tier, and again, the weight from this one is transferred into the pillars through the cake completely and resting on the bottom board. Now I can do the same thing to the top if I want to. Actually, I'm going to show you the other pillars for the top tier. Okay, the other pillars that come with Bakery Crafts look like this. And you have 2-inch sections that come apart from the plain pillar. So let's say for the top tier, I only want a 2-inch separation. So I'm going to connect just one of these to each pillar. There we go. Okay. And we're probably going to use a small plate. And again, I keep forgetting these rings. It's the finished details that make the difference. And one more. Okay, and these are going to go right into the cake. Let's go down to this side. Okay. And then these would go down. Okay, so this time I'm left with just about a 3-inch pillar showing at the top because I decided to only use one addition. So the two choices you have here is you can use the 8-inch pillars and you can cut off the segments to fit your needs, or you can use these pillars and you can just change it by 2-inch increments. So it's your choice which one you want to use if you want a piece of the pillar showing. And again, your top tier would go right on there. So the weight goes from the top tier through the pillars all the way to this plate, through these pillars all the way through the cake, right down to the bottom. So I think that explains the basic use of these pillars and how to use them. There's one last thing I'd like to show you. Let me just take this off. I like to make wedding cakes that have very little structure showing on the outside. One of the things that I like to do, let's just pretend here with my styrofoam that we've covered this cake in a light layer of icing. And I don't want my plate to show at all. So I would put the 4 pillars in. I would set that in there. And I would make my pillars just a little bit shorter than the height of the cake. And I would push this down level with the top of the cake. Then, after it's level, I would ice over the edges to make sure that there's no bumps or ripples showing, and then I would cover the entire thing with rolled fondant. By doing that, you don't see any of the internal structure at all. And this would allow me to use a vase or champagne glasses or maybe a candlestick holder, something other than a traditional pillar, in order to put the second tier on. Let me just grab one real quick to show you. This is a good one. I always have something handy here. Here's a crystal candle holder. And all I would do now is the next tier up would have that as its separation. But because the fondant or the buttercream is going right over this plate, all you would see is the finished cake and then the separation. So the plates are more useful than just using with the pillars and having the pillars show. There are many other different ways of using these plates and pillar combinations. If you've never tried using candlestick holders or a vase or something, they make beautiful separations in wedding cakes. You just have to make sure they're in a safe spot where no one's going to hit the cake. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you learned a little bit about the SPS Bakery Crafts tiered wedding cake system. We have it all available at globalsugarart.com, and thank you for watching.